Nostalgic.
Nostalgic. We need a siren.
Oh my gosh.
Woo. What was that Lil Wayne song?
I don't know. Fireman.
Yeah.
I know that one. I cannot believe we're doing this in the middle of our award show.
We're doing an award show. As you can see, I'm dressed.
Tyler. I think I look better.
Dapper. But we got some breaking info, Tyler.
All right.
So we had to break off from our award show to get this out. So for those that don't know, I'm going to try my best to unravel this in like the most clear, easy way, but I don't know if I can.
Okay.
So here's the sitch. UPA, which we all know is
PPA.
Is PPA.
Yep. United Pickleball Association.
Yes. So they started their own paddle testing. They've spent millions of dollars. They've teamed with Pro Pickleball Labs to come up with their own paddle testing standards.
Yeah.
USAP has already had their own standards in place. Mm-hmm. PPA essentially has come out and said, and this is stuff that we've talked about before. PPA has essentially come out and said, you have to get certification through UPA if you want a pro player to use your paddle.
For their tournaments.
For their tournaments. However, a lot of paddle manufacturers have kicked back. Mm-hmm. They want a separation of church and state. Mm-hmm. They wonder why Jason Aspis talks about the PPA as we, even though he's supposed to be separate as the UPA.
Okay.
And essentially, they asked for a 12-month reprieve.
Mm-hmm. Who's they?
There's about 7 or 8 paddle manufacturers. Okay. One of them was Engage, and rumor has it that Engage and 2 or 3 others asked for it, and then they kind of signed the other guys' names. The other guys were kind of on the fence, and they just kind of put their names on the letter.
Uh-huh.
So with that being said...
And a lot of this is going on under wraps. It's not out. It's not much out there in the public.
No, these are like behind the scenes emails, and
there hasn't been a lot of exposure or a lot of
So all this info is coming from the paddle side for us. Mm-hmm. So there's hasn't been. They've kind of been doing this behind the scenes. So PPA has come out, or UPA, excuse me, has come out today, and they said, look, our testing's not ready. Mm-hmm. It won't be ready until July. So what we will do is we will allow for $2,000 per paddle. Mm-hmm. We will test your paddles and make sure that they meet, because they don't have full testing. Mm-hmm. Make sure that they meet USAP standards. So I guess it can test for USAP.
Okay.
And then in July, you will have a fee due of $20,000. The $2,000 goes towards the $20,000, and your paddles will have to meet UPA standards.
Okay.
So Selkirk has sent in.
So Selkirk has been the most notorious brand out of all the manufacturers that has really pushed back on this.
They have. So Selkirk has sent in numerous paddles for this.
Yeah. Because they are one of the biggest brands in paddles for pickleball.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's Yola than Selkirk, right?
Yeah.
So, so Selkirk sent in they're calling it provisional testing.
Okay.
So Selkirk sent, everybody. There's not a paddle manufacturer out there, truthfully, that hasn't sent them in for provisional testing. Okay? So that's part one. And then the $2,000 that you pay per paddle goes towards your UPA full
dues, fees.
Dues or whatever, okay? Now, part two. By the way, Engage, Gearbox, and Vatic have all said no to the provisional testing.
But that is before.
They could change.
Could change, yeah.
But as of right now, and Komodo. So Engage, Gearbox, Komodo, and Vatic, as of right now, cannot be used on the Pro Tour next year. Okay. Now, these things are fluid. Part two, PPA has a broadcast marketing license that they're charging paddle manufacturers, or UPA. Or I don't know if it's UPA or PPA.
Okay.
I assume this would be PPA that's charging this.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to keep them separate.
Because in the letterhead, it has all three. It has UPA, PPA, and MLP.
Yes. So here's the situation. PPA is saying, look, we are putting on, we have Yola, we have
Paddle
Proton,
ProXR.
Paddletech, who are paying millions of dollars a year, right? I know for a fact that Yola is paying over $1 million in advertising. Vulcan is paying over $1 million in advertising a year.
Yep.
Okay, so they're saying we have all these paddle manufacturers that are paying millions of dollars in advertising, And then we let a paddle company come in like, I don't know, Pro
Who
XR, it doesn't matter, Hoodef, and they can put their paddle in a player's hands, and that player can be outfitted head to toe in their gear, and they can play on center court for free. And they essentially can advertise their paddle for free. Right?
Right.
And so some of the manufacturers kicked back on that. PPA kind of kicked back on that, and they decided that, if you're going to advertise your paddles on our broadcast, you got to pay a fee. So they have what they call a broadcast marketing license. I believe it's $50,000, which equates to around $1,000 per event. And
that's every brand.
That's every brand
needs
has to pay that. Needs to pay that.
So regardless of if you have 10, 20, 50 players or one player, that brand would need to pay that
exactly.
amount.
So every brand has to pay that $50,000.
Kind of like F1.
Yeah. So that $50,000, if you do not pay that $50,000, the pro players that you sponsor can still use your paddle. However, that paddle has to be blacked out, which means that there's no logos.
Okay.
There's no advertising.
Okay.
There's no designs, colors, anything.
Is that just on the face? Like, what about the edge guard?
It can't be larger than the PPA logo. So, which is tiny, which is that sticker.
Okay.
Which is tiny.
Okay.
So, essentially, you have to play with a paddle that nobody knows what paddle you're playing with. So, Holbrook has opted to do that. Avora. Have you heard of Avora?
I think that's Callan's, the Dawson's.
Oh, is that the Dawson's new one? So they've opted for that. And then some others are kind of pending in that direction right now. So they've opted to just go.
And what's the fee for that? The blacked out?
No fee.
Oh, there's no fee?
No fee.
Okay.
Nobody knows what paddle you're using.
Can you wear their logos on your shirt or clothing?
I believe you still can. I believe that's the players are allowed to still make money off of their NIL, right? So that's the situation there. Now, this is where it gets sticky. If you are spending more than $100,000 a year in advertising with the PPA, which is Yola, which is Proton, which is actually, oddly enough, Selkirk has opted in, the rumor is, to their advertising.
Yeah.
You automatically receive the broadcast licensing. You receive that automatically.
Has that always been the case, or is that new?
Well, that licensing is new. That's the thing. So you automatically receive that. So Selkirk's paying $150,000 in advertising, right? They don't have to pay the extra $50,000. So here's where it gets weird. Selkirk is receiving that, right? So their paddles are already in for the broadcast licensing agreement. They already sent in a bunch of paddles to get provisionally approved. So they've sent in so many paddles that actually they've already covered the $20,000 fee. So they're getting all the perks and benefits that you can right now. And yet there's still rumors that they're going to sue the PPA.
Okay.
Why? I'm genuinely curious. Are they looking for fair play? Are they do they just want to abolish the UPA completely?
That's a great question. I don't know. You would have more intel than I would. Or what are your thoughts on that? Why would they do that? Is that still even after this?
Yeah, after they're in.
It's got to be something based on principle.
Yeah, is there some sort of principle thing that they're still? That's a genuinely curious question. I would love for Selkirk to reach out and ask us.
Just maybe because they are. They don't think it's right, maybe. They feel like maybe it's it's
a
very high fee, especially for these brands that are trying to break in.
What's the word? Extortion?
Yeah.
Do they feel like it's an extortion play from UPA?
Yeah, I
do know. And we did read the Selkirk letter, and it said that Jason Aspis was talking as he was a part of the UPA. There was also as part of PPA. And they're supposed to be separate entities. And I know Selkirk would really like those to be separate. And they would like UPA to be a nonprofit, which we had Aspis on the show. And he was like, what's a nonprofit? He didn't say it like that, but he was like, that's literally that's your argument. That's stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw his Facebook post, but he was talking about close call replay. And Aspis was like, we, talking about PPA. So I don't know, is UPA in charge of close call replay or is PPA?
That's a great question.
Anyways,
I will defer to you for this.
I feel like Selkirk maybe thinks that the lines have been blurred a little bit.
Okay.
But with that being said, they're getting all of the benefits of this paddle testing and everything that PPA has set, or UPA, excuse me, has set forth. But they're still big time threats of lawsuits out there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, again, they opted into the advertising, but then there's still alleged lawsuits. So,
and a lot of people are wondering, having the question, it seems like once Yola came into the space, they kind of took away that number one spot from Selkirk.
Yeah.
Had Selkirk still been in that clear-cut number one spot, would this still be going on?
So that's the question. Is there a little bit of beef between Yola and Selkirk?
Exactly.
Because Yola has been a great partner for the PPA, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean,
Selkirk was a great partner for the PPA too.
Yeah.
Go back 2 years ago, and they were
number one.
They were the number one sponsor.
And Yola has bumped them out of that spot for sure.
Yeah.
And so interesting what happened. Also, it looks like just reading this, no customization, overgrips, or edge tape. They must also be black on the blackout paddles.
Interesting.
No visible branding. The paddle brand name.
So
and
then
model,
I would imagine edge guard would be off limits as well.
Yeah, it says overgrips or edge tape. And then it says the paddle brand name and model can only be printed in black or white and must be limited to 1.5 inches in size and placed near the handle.
Gotcha.
It also says that the paddle.
I don't think that's that big of a consequence. To be honest, a lot of the players prefer the all black paddle.
Yeah. Avora, Holbrook, and Thrive are the three that have opted into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there's no fee for that.
There's not a fee for that.
Okay.
They just essentially are not going to be advertised.
So it's like the Netflix when they introduced the free version, but with ads, or the very low price with ads.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you
still get to be a part of it, but there's a lot of
like
negatives.
You're Holbrook, right? Who does Holbrook sponsor? Allison Harris?
The Emmerichs.
The Emmerichs? So, I mean, okay, so those guys, Martin can still wear a Holbrook shirt, according to this.
Yeah.
Right? And Holbrook's paddles are essentially all black anyways.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't think for them it's going to be a huge.
Okay. Anything else, Jimmy, with this emergency breaking news?
No, that's it. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's antitrust lawsuits. We'll see if the people follow through with these things. But as of right now.
How fun is pickleball?
Dude, it's incredible, right?
We're in the off season, and I feel like more has happened in the past 2 to 3 weeks than in the past few months.
I mean, as of right now, everybody, almost every paddle manufacturer, Engage, Gearbox, Holbrook, Komodo, Onyx is still on the fence, which is an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah.
Aereo, Thrive, Vatic have all kind of are on the fence when it comes to that broadcast marketing agreement.
Yeah.
Everybody else looks like agreed to it.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, we will resume our 2024 award show. Go check it out.